And she was like, no, I don't know what the results are. He just wants to see you in person and talk about medication, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So I bring James in because I just had this weird feeling. I bring my husband in, and thank God I did, because I sit down and the doctor said, you have thyroid cancer, and I black out.
I don't got it all planned out, but you know, I just watch it all pan out, cause I know that you know, covered in this life until forever.
This is kind of wild though, because I do feel like it's been a long time since we've seen each other.
Yes.
The last time I saw you was in a showroom.
We're trying clothes on.
Yeah, and we were meeting and trying clothes on.
But it was like an instant, chemistry. Like, you know, when you're like, oh, I'm going to find my girlfriend.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, our energies matched. And I just felt like an
have
instant
that energy
connection.
though. You have this like very like open, welcoming, friendly kind of like energy. And so I was like, hi.
And I'm like, hi, do you want to be my best friend?
Like, hi, everybody. Welcome Beau Dunn to the Cool Mom Code podcast. Look at this.
No, it's so funny because a lot of people think I'm going to be completely different in person. And then or they're like,
why do people think that?
I think just how I grew up, I come from Beverly Hills. Like, it's just the stigma of, her parents have money, or, she comes from an affluent family. That doesn't mean the kids, So I think it's where you come from, who your family is, this and that. And and my husband. And so people meet me and they're like, is she real? I'm like, this is just me, because I always have this energy and I'm always really happy and really engaging. And I love meeting new people and making new friends. And so people, it's kind of like not abrasive, but people are like taken off,
Have you always been this way though? Like always, even in high school, even as a kid, have you always been this like energetic, happy person?
I think so. I don't remember a time I wasn't. I played sports and created art in high school and just like growing up. So I was always just like very work driven. So I've always been very focused, known what I want to do. And so I think just with having that passion, so I don't know. I have to ask some of my friends.
Becoming an artist, though, because you're an artist, right? Becoming an artist after, like you said, being very work-driven, right? Yeah. Going to schools that were very academically based and, in a family that is also work-driven. And now you are an artist. Were you like kind of like the black sheep of the family? Or was that encouraged?
Completely encouraged. So, both my parents are, have always been like immersed in collecting art. And for me, like, I'm so multifaceted as a career. I think for me, like, especially my dad, my mom's the same way, but like it's very entrepreneurial driven in our family. And it was always encouraged to like start your own family, or not families.
That too.
Start your own families. But I'm like, my brother's 10 years younger, so not yet. But to start your own businesses and like whatever it looks like. So whether it's art, and really run a business well. And I think that's what kind of, not saying all artists don't run businesses, but a lot of people just create art. For me, my dad kind of drove in at a very early age when I started creating art, especially when I was at Pepperdine. And I never thought, I was modeling and acting. That was kind of the path I was going down. And for me, I got picked up by a gallery. It was very natural progression with the art. I never thought I was going to be an artist. I made art for me. Yeah. It's a therapy. It's a way I express myself. And then I got picked up by galleries, and it's kind of like a natural progression. You obviously own your own businesses as well. And it's like, you need to know as a business owner, every aspect of that and, of the business. And so a lot of people, like my husband works completely different. He delegates and he brings the best people in. I learn everything, because if some person steps out or, obviously if there's an emergency, I need to know how to run my business from a 360 holistic kind of way. And so, I don't know. I've kind of taken that into art, which has been interesting just because the art industry it's tough.
The art industry is very different from any other industry that I've ever tapped into. Yeah. The art industry, it's its own world.
It is. And it's very interesting being a female in that world. And I've kind of had to pave my own path. I don't feel like I've really fit into kind of any world.
Okay, wait a minute. Tell me why. Because I've never looked at the art industry as being interesting for a female. Tell me why.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel male artists obviously have the best auction results. I think it is not really, I'm not saying it's not a fair industry. I think being a female artist, from an affluent background, you don't get taken as seriously. You know, people are like, well, if you're rich, why are you an artist? You have to be struggling. You have to be, you know, and that's the conversation around me creating art. And that's what I've had to fight since day one. Whether it is, you know, gallerists not paying, whether it's, there's so many different angles to this where I feel like I've been fighting for my life, to be honest, in the art world. And to a point where I was like, do I still want to do this? Because this industry is very difficult for, you know, obviously any artist breaking in, and I'm very emerging. But for me, at the end of the day, I love making art for me. And I literally paint don't look at my nails. I've like broken them all off. I've been painting this week. I'm working on a new series. And it's like, for me, I have to do this for me. And even though I don't fit into the traditional fine art world, I've had to just pave that path. And so I've had mentors who have figured out kind of their niche, and they've been very helpful. But at the same time, for me as a female artist, and like, you know, I work with different mediums. So I'm like a multimedia artist, found object. I have a sculptural background. And so it's not like I'm just painting or I'm just a photographer. So for being so kind of multifaceted also with the art I create, it's just figuring out what works for me and my path and, you know, who represents me, but knowing the business as a 360.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, you never really think about it that way. Honestly, I would have never thought that in a million years you would have had any difficulty getting into the art world. But I like hearing that you're so honest about your perspective on it, because I think, you know, I could see how you could say that. You do look at artists as they have to come from like some sort of struggle or have some sort of point of view that creates like a depth and like, you know, when you think about like art. But I think it really is all about, right, your perspective on what art is, and you're creating art from your perspective.
And I think for me, I am a social commentary artist. So for me, like people are like, oh, you're Barbies, and they don't really, until you kind of like dive a little deeper in and or come to one of my solo shows and understand it is a commentary on growing up in Beverly Hills and the pressures on women and societal pressures on men. I made these huge like children condoms that were oversized, and it was talking about pressures on men. So for me, my stuff is very commercial and very fun and very, you know, contemporary. But at the end of the day, it is very deep. And so that's the conversation. That's where I invite people in, you know, and I'd say the struggle with the art, it's been kind of from everything, you know, whether it is running the business and knowing your production costs and knowing, okay, cool, galleries take 50%. Like that's a lot, you know what I mean? And so you have to kind of bake that in. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, you know, we have to be hustlers if you are running your own businesses and you are going to work harder than anyone else working with you.
I mean, just to throw this out here too, she kind of skated past this a little bit, so I'm going to rewind it one second. But with the Barbie thing, your Barbie series was amazing, and she did it way before Barbie was having a moment.
10 years before.
10 years before. And even that, you know what I mean, was very creative in how you reimagined what, you know, the Barbies looked like, or you know, in your art world. But I just think it's interesting that, you know, then 10 years later, there's like this whole Barbie moment.
I know.
That is like huge.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Did you feel like there was like kind of like a push with your art in that moment though? That like,
just the press. Like I think I did so many like news articles. And so the press to obviously 10 years before, and I'm sold out of most of the Barbies, you know what I mean? And I may be working on some new projects and stuff. But it was a really cool revival. And, you know, my husband's from New Zealand, like even getting press in New Zealand, like how New Zealand's connected with the Barbie movie, like it was such a cool platform to say like, hey, I did this 10 years ago and I'm using Barbie as my muse. And now that, you know, she's had a revival, but this is why I use Barbie as my muse, because every couple years Barbie has drama. Like she is one of the most controversial figures of our time, I think. And that's why I was like, if I'm going to talk about pressures in Beverly Hills and what it is to be plastic, and my show was called Plastic, I was like, she's the perfect representation to say, you know, because she's so controversial.
Well, literally, you were either going to do Clueless or Barbie.
Exactly.
Probably. One of the two. So which one do you choose? No, I think it's interesting that you spin it on its head, right? That you are taking more of a social standpoint from art, and you know, I think that's an interesting way to go about it. I also think that without the I grew up in this, you know, whatever the struggle, whatever, right, of that, like you're taking it from a perspective where you can see the world from this way. And hey, let's see if we can turn it on its head. And this is from my point of view.
And also make fun of myself too. And I think that's the conversation. if I'm talking about myself and my experience, I worked with Kris Jenner and on her Birkin closet. So Kris ended up calling me. I have my neon says need money for Birkin, and it's called Next Generation, and basically how we're crafting the next generation with obviously wealth and, you know, very expensive items, let's just say. So basically she had called me and she said, this is the funniest, like, she's like, I want to make fun of the situation. If I'm gonna have a Birkin closet, we're going all in. And so that's where I was like, that's where my collector base, they can have fun with their art, they can have fun with their homes, but they can also make fun of themselves. Like if she has a Birkin closet and she puts that in there, like it's amazing, you know what I mean? And it's really like, you know, we got amazing press around that because she was bold enough to do that and, you know, have fun with her art collection and her Birkin collection.
How do you have fun in those? Like where does that come from? Where does being able to make fun of yourself come from? Like, does that come from just confidence. Like how your family or confidence? Yeah, tell me.
I don't know. I've always been very secure with who I am and I feel like very, very grounded in that. And so for me, like I can make fun, like, you know, if people are going to say like, oh, she's come from Beverly Hills, and, you know, whether my brother is actually a professional boxer and he is, you know, struggling with the same situation where they're going, you can't box, you know, you come from Beverly Hills. And so that's the conversation as our family. Like, if you're going to actually lean into that, then, you know what I mean? You're like, we can talk about our struggles, and we've had very different struggles than other people. You know, I've had severe health issues, and I, you know, I'll talk about that in my art, but you have to have fun at the end of the day, whether it's with your career or not. And I think it also makes it more genuine as well.
Is that something your parents instilled in you though? Like, just, hey, you got to be able to have fun with this. Like, you can't take this too seriously. You got to be able to have fun with this a little bit.
No, I'd say more the work ethic. I think for me, it was more of a personal, like, I'm not going to do this unless I'm having fun. And, you know, I'll be in meetings. I'm like, I want to have fun doing this. And people don't understand. Like, some of my team is like, don't say that. But at the end of the day, life is too short. I want to enjoy what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And I'm so passionate about my work and what I do every day. So
isn't that the universal thing though? That right there. If we can all just lean in and have fun with what we're doing, enjoy the moments of what the time that we're actually putting in, because no matter where you come from, no matter what your stage of the game is, no matter what, you know, socioeconomic class you come from, anything, right? Life happens to all of us.
Yes, it does.
Time is not guaranteed to any of us. And if we can just have fun along the way, you know,
100%.
That's what it's like all about. But for you, you have gone through some health things, and it hasn't been easy, which also impacted how you were able to have children. So talk to me a little bit about your journey there.
So when I was actually at Pepperdine, so I was kind of wrapping up, you know, in the fine art world, and I was acting and modeling at the time, and I had severe kind of like back issues. And from there, it kind of like, I guess, snowballed. I don't know. From the back issues, I actually got diagnosed with lipedema, which is a rare genetic fat disorder.
Wow.
And it's through my dad's side. My grandmother had it, and it is really hard to get passed through a male because men, so usually you get it from your mother's side. So I never kind of looked into it because it was very, very rare situation. But I had severe pain in my legs, and I was much heavier on my bottom half as well. So I definitely had the symptoms. I got diagnosed in 2010.
Like severe, like where you had trouble walking, like that?
No,
severe?
It's basically an inflammation. Like, so it's where your adipose tissue, which is your fat, turns kind of like into dead fat. So no matter what you do, you can't lose weight. But it really affects your lymphatic system as well. So I had severe swelling that I could not really get under control for the last like 10 years. It's completely under control now. I'll get to that. But it was just kind of one thing after another. But I was modeling at the time, and I was with Ford models, and they were just like, your measurements are so off. You're so tiny on the top. And, you know, it just, you know, going to castings, it's not like a normal situation where you're like, oh, you know, my measurements are off. It was just, I was in that world, and it was brought to my attention. They were just like, hey, like for casting purposes, like, you know, just, this is not really normal. And I was like, oh, I'm Italian. I like to eat. I don't know. I was like, I've always been curvy.
You didn't think much of it.
I didn't until my parents were like, hey, we obviously have like the best doctor. She's down in San Diego. Just go get checked just to make sure. And yeah, I got diagnosed, and it was one of those things, kind of like the art or any of these situations. I was like, I cried for like a couple hours. I was just shocked. I got diagnosed with this, and it's there was no cure at the time. There's really no cure except I'll get into that later. But I cried for a few hours. I called the doctor back and I told her we're going to start a charity. And so I started charity Cure Lipedema with her. And at this time, there was nothing on the internet about this disease. I was fighting hospital systems because they said it wasn't a real disease at that time in 2010. So I literally campaigned. I did speaking events all over the world with this doctor and with this organization. And I really campaigned for women finding out about being diagnosed with lipedema because I had no idea. And, there's so many things you can do, even though there is no cure. And so, that's kind of how it started.
But no one talks about it.
Well, yeah, at that time, no, it wasn't even a real disease. Wow. Like, literally, I was going up against, some doctors at Cedars-Sinai. Like, I was like, hey, and they're like, no, this is women who are obese say that this is a disease. I was like, no, like, this is it's impacting, and I think it was 20% of women worldwide had this, and it was a rare fat disease that no one really knew about. And so I was like, and I got scrutinized also too, because I was not, I'd say 140 pounds at the time or 130 pounds. And women are like, you're going to look like me one day, who were 300 pounds or whatever it was. And I'm speaking and they, weren't really respecting me, but I'm like, I'm trying to help. And I'm trying to use my platform to really have a voice and really get women diagnosed and also share my story.
Right.
And so with that being said, it kind of was just a rough 10 years. After that, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, the autoimmune. That really, really impacted.
Unrelated.
It could be related.
You don't know.
There's no cure for lipedema. And so for me, something with the hormones is definitely related to it, but completely unrelated, two different situations. After a couple years of trying to combat that, I went to a new endocrinologist, and basically I had a scan of my thyroid. And with that being said, they found a cyst. They said at my age, it was 0 to 5%, it was cancerous. I couldn't really sleep that night. And so I talked to my dad and my husband just the next day. I think we were grabbing brunch or something like that. And I was like, I couldn't really sleep. And my dad's like, what's going on? And I told him, he's like, no, go get it checked. Even if 0 to 5%, if you're missing one night of sleep, just go get it checked. We can just, and just to be safe. And so I'm pretty tough because I probably wouldn't have gotten checked. I was like, but went and got it checked. It came back inconclusive. So they resent out the test, because they have to put needles in your throat to test it. It's horrific. And basically from there, I got a call from my doctor's office and they said, hey, can you come in, talk about your results, this and that. And so I call every doctor I have, which there's a lot of doctors, and they're like, you don't have cancer, stop being dramatic. You know what I mean? I was like, why does he want to see me in person? So I called the office back and I was like, is something wrong? I'm not seeing him until next week. I'm panicked.
I need to know.
Yeah. And she was like, no, I don't know what the results are. He just wants to see you in person and talk about medication, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So I bring James in because I just had this weird feeling. I bring my husband in, and thank God I did, because I sit down and the doctor said, you have thyroid cancer, and I black out. I'm just, I can cry right now. It was to be 30, 31, you know what I mean? 31, I don't even know. 32.
And at this point in time, had you guys talked about starting a family yet? Or was that even in the cards yet?
I think since we met, we always kind of talked about having a family. I don't think, with all my health issues, it was off the table for 10 years. I also forgot to tell you, I fell off a zebra in Africa.
Oh my God, I read about this.
I fell off a zebra in Africa, and I'm like, how did I forget this? And you were on
crutches for 1.5 years?
No, 5 years. So I didn't walk for 5 years. So, yeah. So in 2017, James and I ended up eloping, and we kept kind of pushing. I had so many health issues, and we kind of kept pushing the actual party. And so we ended up eloping, and we went to the Maldives and we went to Africa, and it was my dream African trip. I'm obsessed with animals.
Yes.
That's, if you know me, I'm obsessed with animals. So this was like a dream come true. Yeah. And so it was day one, and a girlfriend of mine shot a movie in Africa. And basically she had worked with this animal trainer who shoots everything down there. Right. And so they were shooting Jackass down there that week. And so she had gotten me in to have a private tour of this animal sanctuary that's private. And so all the animals are trained. Obviously, it's a sanctuary. He rescues animals, and then obviously the working ones, and then takes care of the other ones. The best day of my life until the worst day of my life. And then basically, we're playing with lions, cheetah. We're doing cheetah runs. I can't, when you're I don't know if you do this, when you're doing something and you're like, I just want to remember this for the rest of my life. Like, you know, whether it's the birth of your children and you're like, I just want to have this feeling for the rest of my life. That was just one of the days. Yeah. I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. And so at the end of the day, the trainer, we go down to this paddock at the kind of at the bottom, and there's horses and zebras, and he just throws me up on a trained zebra. Yeah. It's kind of like a mini horse. I felt very safe, and trotting around, James taking like Instagram cute photos in a little safari outfit. And as I said, I never, a lot of people are like, why would you ride a zebra? Especially, you know, South Africans, like, we don't ride zebras. And like, this was a very isolated situation. He's never had an injury. He's never had a death, nothing with these animals. It was a freak accident. Basically, a goat came out of another paddock running towards us and spooked it, and it bucked. I was bareback. Rather than falling back, potentially break my neck, it was split second. I jumped to the left and my right foot catches. I fell. I didn't have one scratch. It was just a freak accident. I could have fallen off a, curb in LA or whatever. And basically my kneecap ripped off. I shattered all the cartilage and tore all my anterior tendons. What? So it was kind of like lipedema, Hashimoto's, then the knee. So I got flown back to the US and to LA. I went to emergency surgery here. And then that was 2017. I had knee surgery in 19 and 21. So every 2 years I was having full knee reconstruction. They never thought I was going to walk again, like normally. And so I have dedicated my life to recovery and physical therapy. I do physical therapy every single day. And it's one of those things, like, you know how it is. Like we get invited to so many events and lunches and this and that. And I'm like, this is my number one priority. Right. So to be honest, that's why my hair is always slicked back. Everyone's like, what's up with this new hairstyle? I'm like, since 2017, like I've really prioritize my health. And so for me, it's like,
because you're working out and doing PT every single day.
But I don't have time to blow dry. I'm running to meetings or like going to the studio or whatever it is. So for me, like that is my number one priority. And then I like gel my hair up and then I run off. But I'm like, my beauty is not my priority now. It is literally like I had to dedicate 100% of my resources and my time to getting better, especially before having kids or having kids. Yeah.
Just also a really quick note. If you're loving this content, our podcast with all of our amazing guests, we love sharing their stories. It really is such a joy for us. Then you're going to love thecoolmom.co. Make sure to head over there. It is everything that you can think of lifestyle. So we have fashion, food, we have amazing interviews with a lot of other cool moms as well. So check out all of our Cool Mom Co features, shop our merch, do all the things. Check out thecoolmom.co. Okay, hold up. How on earth do you mentally combat and come out on the other side of those things one by one by one.
And that's where like people, it's funny when you always get like Instagram messages like, you've never suffered, you never did, and like whatever. I'm like, you have no idea. And the thing is, I've been in it for 10 years. And that's the problem I had. When you're in it, I'm like, I can't even process getting diagnosed with thyroid cancer or going through this. Like, I can't, I share, hey, like I'm going to knee surgery and this will happen. But I'm like, I have not had a platform, or I haven't even had time to really process. I found a new physical therapist who really deals with like the neurological aspect of like connecting the brain to the injury, because like my quad, most of my muscles, I still don't even have. Wow. But I think for me, what I realized is pain is temporary. And that was my big thing. And, hopefully I will have you on my podcast, but I have one day to talk about this. And I really want to start talking, like, I want to talk to other people about like what their struggles are. And like you said, it doesn't matter where you come from. Life happens, right? And so for me, it was really like, I'm in physical therapy. I think I'm dying, or I'm going into my surgeon's office and they're taking things off. I'm like, I feel like I'm dying. I'm like, this is temporary. I'm gonna get through this. And that's the mentality. Goldman Sachs, everyone has asked me to talk on how did you mentally get through this? That's right. Because it's like, exactly what you said. It was one thing after another. I did not have one break of, and then as soon as the knee thing happens, then I'm like, I get diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
So thyroid cancer diagnosis.
Yes.
What's day 2 of that? What's after that?
Yeah. So get diagnosed. I think that's the problem with getting diagnosed with cancer. You don't know what stage you are. So like, great, you have cancer. It could be stage 1. It could be stage 4. You have no idea. So it was really like, this is the tough part. I was going into my 3rd knee surgery. And I get diagnosed with cancer and they say I have to have emergency cancer surgery. Yeah. So basically I have to go back a little. So Jane, when you asked, did we start talking about family? Yes, we started talking years before. I really wanted to be a young mom like you. You know, that didn't happen for me. But it was always a conversation. We knew we wanted a family, but I was like, I have no idea how we're going to have family. Like you know, when I went back, when I told you earlier, I hurt my back, I herniated discs, and I think it was from impact from sports growing up. I told you it was sports and art. So I've herniated really bad discs down there. And I'm supposed to have double disc replacement for my back. Wow. And then I have my knee. And so it's like, whatever the priority is. So the back, I'm like, I can handle that with physical therapy. I can live in pain, but knee, I couldn't walk. I had to. Right. So that took priority. And then the cancer, that took priority. So when I get diagnosed with the thyroid cancer, basically I had done IVF. So we had talked about having a family. With my knee injury and having to go into a third surgery with my back, I would not have been able to carry because I would have had to have a double disc replacement with my back before I carried a baby. Wow. With the Hashimoto's and the hormones, all that stuff, they were like, so my medical team kind of all got together because I have my lipedema doctor, I have my cancer doctor, you know, I had all my doctors, and they were just like, we can't. You basically have a 0% chance of carrying unless you want to do all these surgeries. And I was like, I'm going into knee surgery next. Like, there's no way. So that, I think that was really, really tough to process.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I mean, that hearing all of that, and then on top of you wanting to become a mother, you know, wanting to have that journey as well, and now someone telling you that it's going to change how that happens. How was that for you to mentally process that information?
I think the tough part was I never looked into like having fertility issues. We never looked further into having children. So for me, I was like, I don't know if we have any options. So I didn't know, you know, I was able to pick some friends of my brain, like their brains, and really get some great resources from them. Dr. Mark Suri is our IVF doctor in Beverly Hills, and he's a really good family friend. And so I was able to call him and, you know, get resources, as I said, from friends. But for me, I was like, I don't even know if this is possible. So for me, I had to really mourn the fact of like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have kids. I don't know how we're going to have kids. But like, I never really take no as an answer. Just that's my mentality in life. And so it annoys some people because I'm like, I will hound until I kind of get it. But I think that's what's also made me successful in work, because there's never a door that closes that I can't figure out. And if we had to go down the adoption route, we would have done that. You know what I mean? So there's so many different things. But yeah, went over to Mark Suri's office and figured out, I was like, you know, fertility wise, I was great, but I was really dealing with all the health issues. And so I had obviously disclosed to him, hey, I'm going into my third knee surgery. And he's like, hey, it shouldn't matter. But really had to work with my endocrinologist and deal with the Hashimoto's, because going into IVF and that the change of hormones there really, really affected the Hashimoto's. So I blew up from IVF. It was a very, very rough process for me, which I haven't even been able to talk about that yet. But they knew with the lipedema plus the Hashimoto's, and then you pump hormones in to do IVF. So I knew that was going to be a very rough journey. But as I said, it was one thing after another. It's not like I had one day off of going, oh, I get a break from all this. Like, you know. So I ended up doing one round of IVF, and we actually got all boy embryos.
Okay.
So I ended up getting a lot of eggs. So we got very lucky on the fertility side. And actually, before we were kind of on camera, you and I were chatting of like, a lot of people thought I had fertility issues. And so for me, this journey of, you know, being able to share my story was really
important. Yeah,
really important to say, hey, like, I didn't have every single person, every friend, everyone said, oh, I'm so sorry you have fertility issues. I was like, no, I'm finally lucky on one health thing. I have no problems with fertility. Like, I have so many eggs. That's not the problem. But the problem is all the other stuff. And so really having a platform to tell women, like, if you have health issues, there's so many different options. You have to have, you know, you have to be strong. And you know, just being able to share on my Instagram and, you know, some other podcasts and, you know, having some press about my story. I've had like hundreds of women email me, like so many people, like, you know, friends like you who like call and they're like, hey, I have a friend who may have to go your route or do the surrogacy thing. I'm like, have her call me.
This is the thing. So this is
I know there's a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, this is great though, because I think that's a very important thing to say.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of times people think when you're talking about surrogacy and finding a surrogate, that it is a fertility thing.
Right.
But you're saying, listen, it's not fertility. My fertility was good.
Yeah.
It's a health thing. And for health reasons, I had to go this route. When did you and your husband start talking like, hey, maybe a surrogate is our best option?
It was our only option. So once I went to Dr. Surrey, you know, and obviously he had talked to my medical team. They just said she has 0% chance of carrying. I actually did the IVF before I got diagnosed with cancer. So we did not know at the time I had thyroid cancer. If they knew I had thyroid cancer at that time, I don't know if any of this would have gone through.
Wow.
So the timing of everything, that's why I'm kind of, you know, trying to figure out, like, I'm a little like flustered over here, just trying to get the timeline of everything because everything happened all at the same time. So it was like one thing after another. But anyways, we go into Dr. Surrey, we chat about the plan. And so we knew the only route to having our own natural children would have been surrogacy because I couldn't carry. So from there, we did IVF. We ended up doing 2 rounds. It was so funny because my husband was the one that was like, you may want a girl. And I was like, you know, I'm going to be a boy mom. Like I grew up playing sports. I was a tomboy. Like, you know, great. What, you know, if you have a healthy baby, I don't care what I have. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And so he's like, just in case, let's just do it. And I was like, perfect. Let's do it. And so I was like, I was so affected by it anyways. I'm like, let's just do it back to back and get it over with. So we do a second round. We end up getting some girl embryos too, just so we have it. And so from there, a good friend, she had gone through surrogacy herself. She had gotten a surrogate. And so she kind of gave me the playbook. And I don't think, if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I'd be sitting here. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like, how rigorous and how hard is it to find the right person?
I think it's about the agency. So the agency you work with is the one who does the matching. So it's like if you go to like a bad dating matchmaker, you know what I mean? Or if you go to a good one. I think, you know, it really depends. I would say, like, if someone's going down this route, like, just to interview as many agencies and find the right fit for you who understands you as a family. I wrote letter after letter. Like, what they need from us was the most, because it was like, what am I looking for? And, you know, James too, but as a mom, I was like, this is the person I'm looking for. And as you know, with my personality, I'm like, I want to be best friends with them. Like that was my dream. I didn't know.
Were you able to set the parameters of how often you talked, or like what
she's
what
my
the
soul
relationship?
sister.
Okay, yeah.
She's literally, I'll get to that. Like it was, so, you know, basically I would write letters and they had like a profile for us. And I basically shared all my health issues. I said, from day one, this is what's happened. This is why I cannot carry. I am looking for someone who understands that and who can help our family. Like this will be the biggest gift I could ever receive in my lifetime. I could cry. It's like someone to be so selfless to do it for that reason. You know what I mean? And I knew I kind of wanted someone out of LA because I am a bit of a A-type control freak.
So you wanted someone a little bit removed from you. Is that what you're saying?
I'd say so. Yeah. Just so that I'm not like every day, like, hello. I think, you know, and I think different cities too have different purposes, you know, on why. We ended up choosing Utah. It's very obviously Mormon there, but very family oriented. And I felt my grandmother is from Deer Valley. And so I really knew Utah and Park City and that culture. And so that was kind of my number one on my list, because I was like, it's an easy flight from LA. You know, if I could find my soul sister there, that would be great. And we ended up getting matched with our first surrogate. I shared obviously with my parents.
First surrogate.
I'll share.
Okay, here we go.
Strap in. It's a wild ride.
I'm like,
You're gonna like have to.
I caught on that one.
So we get matched with the surrogate. I tell my parents, and we were only going to implant one baby. Both my parents sat James and I down, and they said, we want twins. And I said, are you crazy?
What?
So my dad always wanted like a basketball team. He wanted like as many kids as possible. And my mom always wanted to be a twin, or always wanted twins. It was like her dream. And she was just like, to be connected on a soul level and have a built-in best friend, like we were talking earlier. It's like, I couldn't even imagine.
I mean, I just think it's fascinating that you literally had the conversation. I mean, I think it's fascinating that you entertained them.
I don't know. Like, okay. Maybe I was so like,
you're like, this is going to be a communal effort. So listen, everyone weigh in. What do you want? What do you want?
No, it wasn't even like we asked her anything. I just said, hey, and they said, is she okay carrying twins? I said, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I said, you guys are crazy. And then my dad's like, what about triplets? I said, what? Sorry, I'm like screaming into this. I said, you're nuts. And so James and I kind of sat that week and we didn't end up matching with the surrogate. We were just like, you know what? Let's see if she'd be open to twins. She absolutely was not open to having twins.
Okay. So she wasn't our soul sister after all.
She wasn't my soul sister, but maybe she's probably someone else's soul sister.
That's right.
She was meant to be someone else's. And so we go back to the agency and we do a 360. We tell them we want twins now. That is not what we signed up for. We signed up for one baby.
Wow.
So they had to do a quick, very quick pivot. And basically, I think it was perfect timing. Our surrogate had just kind of applied and she was open to having twins.
Wow.
And so we got matched within a week because usually it takes like 6 months to 2 years, something like that. It takes a long time to get matched. Yeah. And we did it in 2020, 2021 during COVID.
Wow.
And so
it does sound like dating. Amazing.
Yeah. Like, I know.
It takes forever to get matched.
Literally. But it was just the perfect timing. She came in right when we were, you know what I mean? Like, I think within a week, she had came in and we were matched a week later.
Meant to be.
And it was meant to be. So, it was wild. I think after we got matched, I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So thank God, as I said before, we did the IVF before the cancer.
So it happened right before. Yeah. Okay.
Or else I don't know if we'd have those embryos. But just having the IVF and having, the surrogacy as an option for someone with health issues, it was life-changing. But I went in, I picked a lot of friends' brains. I called every twin I knew. I said, boy, girl twins. Because I knew if we were going to implant, we're going to do boy, girls. And they said it's been the best experience of my life. They said I have a built-in best friend. There's no competition with 2 girls, 2 boys. Like a boy, girl, it's like, it's a different bond, I think, than different twins. And we ended up implanting. And so I think what was tough was, as I said before, and as I'm trying to get my timetable right, I was going into my 3rd knee surgery. The same week I went into my cancer surgery. Yeah. So I wanted to cancel one. I knew the cancer surgery because why I'm trying to tell you all of this as well. When I did IVF, and I had not had the COVID vaccine before that. I had the COVID vaccine after I did IVF because I hadn't had the COVID vaccine. So I was like, perfect, I'll do IVF, then get the COVID vaccine after just to be safe. And we don't know, whatever. When I did the COVID vaccine, it really inflamed my lymph system. Wow. And so when they did the mapping for the thyroid cancer, my lymph system was out of control. So they were worried the cancer had spread and had gone into the lymph system. So from there, I had to go in the emergency surgery. So I literally went into knee surgery, I think on like a Wednesday. Maybe that Friday or that next Monday, I go into full cancer surgery on crutches. Wow. The cancer surgery goes, I feel really bad for you. Because it's full neck surgery. I had my full thyroid removed and the cancer removed. And they didn't know. So what I was saying before, when you're like, what did it feel like to get diagnosed with cancer? I didn't know what stage I was. I didn't even know what the situation was until after the surgery. Wow. Because they had to go in, they had to pull all the lymph nodes out. They had to test them after the surgery. So I'm like, I just felt out of my mind. Like I was.
And at this point, had you already implanted with the surrogate?
We had not, no. We had gotten matched with the surrogate. We implanted after my surgery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
I'm like,
because it was a really dangerous, obviously, surgery, and I had to like do my will before. It was really, really intense. Knee surgery is not like that. My surgeon, I go to Dr. Michael Banfi in LA, and he's just like, he's playing fun music. Like it is a totally different vibe.
Right.
So, and you're not signing a will for a knee surgery.
Exactly.
This was like, I was blacked out for a few months. Like I didn't know if I was coming or going at this rate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you get matched with a surrogate. You are overcoming all these other things. You're healing from all this other health issues. At what point are you like, okay, we're going to go in with this surrogate. This is it. We're going full speed. Now it's happening.
After my cancer surgery, I ended up having an allergic reaction to the glue they used. So I was in really bad shape, but we were FaceTiming. We had not met her in person and FaceTiming. And as I said, like I was in bad shape. And just when our first Zoom, I was like, I know this is my soul sister. I know this is the person I'm going to go on this journey. And the agency kept asking, what kind of relationship would you want? And I'm like, I would love for her to be my sister and part of my family, because I'm going to
Look at you, all in.
I don't know. That's just me as a person. Like, if you're close to me, you know, like we're ride or dies, you know what I mean? And I knew I was going to have to be public with the story because, as I was telling you before, like, I'm not pregnant and I have twins. Right. So I need to be very, very specific and very like
transparent.
Transparent, but like also like know why I'm doing this, because I think James was worried, like, well, people are going to attack you for having a surrogate, not knowing the health issues behind, because like I hadn't shared, was diagnosed with cancer. Right. I was fighting cancer. I didn't give crap about anything else. Anybody else. I was in survival mode for, I'd say like a good 5 years there. And that's all the capacity I had at that point. Right. And so bringing the surrogate on, I was like, hopefully we'll be soul sisters and we'll be really, really close, and hopefully she'll be part of the family. And if not, she's given us the best gift and I'll take anything. But I knew that was our person. And we started the journey and it was magical.
Did you know from the beginning that you wanted the surrogate to be a part of your life in the long haul?
Yeah, that would be my dream situation. Yeah. That would be my dream situation. You never know how it's going to pan out, or also going through really rough stuff because it's not an easy journey, obviously, going through surrogacy and like how people are going to respond. Right. We were just one. Like her and I, it felt like she was my sister during this. It was like a full team effort, and our husbands could not have been more supportive. And it just was like the perfect match. It truly was. So I was like, hey, best case situation, but she needs to want that too. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Did she want that?
She did.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So she's a part of your life now.
Yeah, we spend Christmas together, holidays, everything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this is something that I feel like a lot of people who go through surrogacy sometimes share, sometimes don't, sometimes feel, sometimes don't. Did you feel like bonding with your kids afterwards was difficult or a challenge, or did you find it came naturally for you?
I think it came naturally. They were in the NICU. So, we go through the surrogacy. We obviously...
Oh, wait a minute. Tell the story.
Yeah.
Oh, tell the story. Wait a minute. We're skipping the story.
I know, but there's so much. So I'm sorry, this is going to be a long...
No, that's okay. But so the story that we're talking about is that...
so we implant. So I get through my cancer situation, obviously the surgery. We end up implanting. We implant twins. You don't know if twins are going to stick. You don't know if IVF is going to work. Yeah. The twins stuck. It was an amazing experience. Yeah. Obviously, it's during COVID too, so it's very tough, with doctor's appointments, this and that, and not really allowed in the rooms. And we had an amazing we had an amazing pregnancy. We did. We had an amazing pregnancy, and I felt, what my goal was to really be included in everything and to feel. I was telling you earlier, like when we were off camera, it was like You don't know how it's going to pan out, right? But you can have your like wish list of like, hey, I'm not going to experience this, and all my friends have, and I don't want to have FOMO. But I had so much gratitude for experiencing it as a dad or another partner would. Right. So for me, and that's the best advice my friend who kind of gave me the playbook gave me. She said, "You're experiencing this completely different than any of your other friends or anyone you can talk to." But have gratitude every single day. Just to be able to do IVF. That's right. To have the baby stick, to be able to find my surrogate. You know what I mean? It's like everything had to line up. And so having gratitude, I never felt one day, poor me, I couldn't give birth, or poor me. Like I never had pity on myself. And that's just who I am as an individual. Right. I have so much gratitude on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's what's gotten me through all the health issues. That's what's gotten me through not being able to carry. Because to have someone offer to carry and be attached to our story and understand it's for health purposes and say like, I'm going to give you the best gift I could ever receive. Yeah,
1000%.
And the selflessness to also carry twins and the morning sickness and what, she went through. It's
that goes
rough.
Along with it. Yeah.
So for me, having the gratitude just got me through and really just made the experience so special.
So tell me about the call that you get in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we get a call like midnight. So the baby's their due date is August 18th.
Leo's, little Leo baby.
We tried.
Yeah, exactly.
And we get a call, I'd say June 30th. Wow. June 29th, around there. And I'm a Gemini, and my husband said I cannot have 2 more Geminis. And so I have birth month. That's like my thing. It's like my birthday all month long. I love celebrating, right? And whether it's like your birthday, anyone's birthday, I just love a good. So my husband said to Dr. Suri, these babies cannot be born in June. And we got a call in June rather than August. Wow. Middle of the night, our surrogate's water broke. And it was a scramble. I had the bags for the babies packed like months before.
Look at you.
Very organized.
Yes, you
I did not have our bags packed and basically threw clothes. I don't even know what I grabbed. I was delirious getting this call. Threw everything in a bag. And my husband and I got into the car and we drove 11 hours to Utah.
Wow.
Not knowing if we were going to make the birth.
And you made it.
We made it. Yeah.
You made it. And not only did you make it, you what, Beau?
I hand delivered the babies.
I mean, that's just a beautiful part of the story.
I know.
You know, I think that really is. I don't think that's something that everybody, especially who has a surrogate, is able to do.
Yeah.
So that even alone.
But it was the timing. We literally went into the OR at 8 a.m. And she had delivered the babies by 8:12.
Wow.
So Bella came out, our daughter came out at 8:12. It was, I've obviously never experienced a birth. I've never watched a birthing video. Like I had no idea what to expect. Our surrogate holds my hand and is making me breathe. She goes, let's breathe in. I go, shouldn't I be doing this for you? The doctor says, if you're going to fall, drop to your knees. And I don't have time to tell him I've had knee surgery. I can't drop. He said, do not fall on her. Cause I look like I'm about to faint at like everything that's going on. And so he said, drop to my knees. I'm like looking back. I'm like,
who got me?
There's a monitor behind me. There's a nurse. She's going to have to catch me.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And, you know, for me, obviously like, helping hand deliver the babies, like you just want healthy babies, like we were talking earlier, and you know, and
but the babies are premature
by almost 2 months,
Wow.
Or 2
so
months,
they're in the NICU for how long?
For over a month.
Wow.
And what we didn't, this is just an interesting thing. I'm like, if you're going to give birth at higher altitude than LA, it was for elevation for oxygen purposes. It wasn't for health purposes. So because we had not calculated, I'm born and raised in LA. I'm not used to elevation or you know, all that. But Utah's much higher altitude. And then our house that we were staying at, we had rented a house in Utah for that month because obviously we had to be there, was at a much higher altitude. So when we were bringing them, if one of the babies got out a week before, we'd bring them from 6,000 feet to 9,000 feet.
Wow.
So what we were worried about was if they get cleared at 6,000, you'd have to, I couldn't bring them up, but also then getting on a plane and going to sea level. So that's actually why it wasn't for health reasons, it was because of oxygen issues.
Oh, wow.
So they couldn't pass the oxygen test. So the craziest part is they said twins never get out on the same day. That's just not what happens. One will get out, they'll pass the test, and the next one. Ours got out on the same day. Which I don't, you know, as I said, I'm not a baby specialist or a NICU nurse or anything like that, but they prepared us. They said there's 0% chance, you know, they're going to get out on the same day. They got out on the same day, and we got on a plane and came back to LA that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or not that, the day they actually got out.
And even though they were born premature, now they're these
chunky
healthy
monkeys.
Little chunky, happy babies running around.
We have the healthiest, happiest babies. And as I said, I have gratitude every single day, and to be best friends with our surrogate, and you know, also be able, I was telling you earlier, being able to tell that story was so difficult. Because I hadn't shared that I was going through a cancer battle, and then knee and all the other stuff. But I was really very specific on bringing on a PR team to help me, because I was like, how do I tell this? Because no one's really talked about having health issues and really combating that fertility issue. Because every single like PR from anyone I talked to was like, oh, I'm so sorry you have fertility issues. There's nothing wrong with having fertility issues. That just wasn't my story, and that wasn't my case. So I had to educate everyone I talked to. I was like, thank you so much, but it's actually, I'm doing it for other reasons. And really was like, I want to share my story because I want to also share with women who have health issues. Like, this is a path, number one. Number two, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of going an alternative route. Like, you know, whether it is adopting, whether it is whatever the situation is, everyone's going to have different situations. And I understand that. But for me, this is our path, and that was meant to be. And you know, but I really wanted, so I ended up finding my publicist, Caitlin Kelly, she's out of Miami. And I was like, I wanted a female to be able to tell the story, to understand and be able to really give me that platform. We ended up working with People Magazine to share the story of like, hey, like, I'm doing this for health reasons. And, you know, I'm so lucky I've gotten my beautiful babies out of it.
I mean, listen, you know, what's interesting is that everyone's journey is going to be different.
100%.
And no two journeys, even with natural birth or, you know, a C-section or in the hospital or at home or whatever it is, however, adoption, no two journeys are ever alike. Everyone's journey is so individual to them. I think it is beautiful that you're able to tell your story.
Thank you.
And that you're also able to say, hey, in any situation that you're in, motherhood is not it's not impossible. And that's 100%. What it is. I think nowadays there are many different options that are celebrated, whereas before possibly they weren't as talked about as that, whatever. They would look whatever down. But now
people are going to judge you no matter what. And I think if I had to be 100%, and this is what my husband and I really, really talked about, you have to be 100% in your purpose.
That's right.
And also in your story, and when you said before, like, where does confidence come from? Like, I knew I want a family, and nothing was going to deter me from that. And if I did have fertility issues and it deterred me into adoption or whatever it was, that was our journey. But I knew that I was like, when I tell the story, if people want to attack me for having cancer, if people want to attack me for my health issues and having a surrogate, like, I have no time for you in my life. You know what I mean? That's what I encourage a lot of people. Even though you say that, a lot of people are very worried about how people are going to judge them. I'm not one of those people because I'm very confident. I have a lot of friends who call me or people that I get connected with, and they say, you know, I'm ashamed. I'm so scared to tell people that I'm going through IVF. And I'm like, there's still stigma around this. This is crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
And like, not judging those people, but I tell them, hey, but I can tell you my story and how I feel so confident in this.
Like anyone could even feel judged.
I know, but I get messages on Instagram or like I'll get people calling me, calling the babies things of like horrible names of but it's just people on the internet, like, come say it to my face. Like, for me, this is my journey, and I've not, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. What, like, going through however you start a family or however you want to be a parent, you know what I mean, or a mom or a partner, you know what I mean.
Is there a name that the kids have for your soul sister? I'm gonna call her soul sister.
Just Auntie, I think.
Auntie. And then at what age or stage do you think that you'll be able to share with them the entire story?
And so that's where I want to raise them. I knew I obviously had to be public with this story. And as I was saying before, I'm not pregnant and then I have twins. And so there's nothing that, like, I had to kind of get through that too of like, well, how are we going to tell them how this? I'm like, I'm just going to make this natural. Like, this is not like my relationship with her is natural. And she's one of my best friends. Like, we went and got our nails done last week.
God,
you know what I mean? So she's going to be part of our life. And the cool thing is too, all surrogates have to have their own children before being a surrogate.
So they have to be mothers already.
So she has 2 daughters who are going to be raised with the babies. And they say they're surrogate brother and sister. And like, they're surro brother and sister.
I mean, the fact that you are like this, I mean, this is your personality though. Yeah. This is very Beau.
I'm such like a woman champion, like, connector, right? So for me, like, I have never felt competitive with another woman. I've never felt like, you know, I want to bring everyone up with me. And that's just who I am since day one. Like, I think literally since I was born, I was like, I want to be your friend. Let's like kill it together. You know what I mean? There's no, in my world and like with my friends, with the people I have in my life, there's no, I'm like,
there's no room for it.
I told you before too. I'm like, I want to like, you need to do this. What can I do to help? Like, I just am such a woman supporter. And I think raising my children to be that too, whether, you know, it's a boy support, you know, however you want to say it, like to support others and to be able to help others. So, you know, with that being said, it's just like to have her in our lives and, you know, raise our children together, and there's no shame. There's no, like, there's nothing behind this.
Well, you know what it is? It's this interesting concept, right? And so many women have sat in this seat and shared it in different ways. And you're the first person sharing it in this way, which I absolutely love. And not necessarily through surrogacy, but like the whole idea and concept of village. The whole idea and concept of community. And the fact that you took this situation and something that, you know, was your only option and you now have created community and village around it. It's like, wow, wow, wow. And only a mother could do it.
Yeah.
I feel like only a mother could see life in that way and in that journey. And that is what you are creating. And I think it's beautiful because everyone comes on and they're talking about their village and their community in their own ways. And look what you've done with the situation that you've been in.
Yeah. And I talk to other friends who have gone through surrogacy and, you know, they kept their surrogate on arm's length and it's more a transactional. And I totally respect that too. And I think that's what we're talking about. It's like, you can have a journey, you can share your journey, but for me, I'm never going to be ashamed, or I'm never going to like have to worry about how to tell my children, like, I'm so strong in my journey, and this, I'm just so grateful to have my children, and you know, have my husband, have my family support, and all my friends support, you know.
Beau, is there any more children in the works?
I don't know. To be honest, I'd love another set of twins, but we're not there yet.
Really?
I don't know. Like, you have 3 kids, but like, I think when you have twins first, and then you add a third, I would never want anyone left out.
Yes, this is true.
But I don't know if we can find a car big enough, so I think we're good for right now. But
listen, I have a friend who has 6. You can make it happen.
No, oh my God, what kind of car do they have?
And they have twins. What do they have? Twins, and then I think the other 4 are not twins. But yeah, they have like a Suburban or something. I mean, like it's like a truck. It has to, it's something.
You need like a Sprinter van.
But they live in LA. It's like,
that's
you know,
amazing.
but listen, it happens.
Yeah, I would totally be open.
I think you can do it. I think you can do it.
Well, no, I've told her, sorry, I'm like,
I believe in you.
I'm like, when are you ready again?
And would you have the same surrogate?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
just keep it all in the family.
100%. No, we just work so well together, and obviously have been through it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
The next chapter.
Yeah,
the next
totally.
Chapter.
But yeah, no, just being on here and be able to share the story, I really, really appreciate it.
Oh my God, Beau, this is incredible. It really is. I'm so glad we've been able to make this happen.
And sorry, my timeline. It's just, I went through a lot.
No, but listen, I think even you've been through a lot, and it to be honest with you, the timeline is irrelevant.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. It's not
crazy
to get the timeline perfect. It really is to share that, hey, life was happening, things were happening, you were overcoming so much in your own right, and then on top of this, how were you going to factor in becoming a mother? How were you going to lay that into your life when it's something that you and your husband had always wanted?
Yeah.
And so I think it's about telling people that there are options. You have to look sometimes outside of the box, sometimes of whatever you think the norm or whatever you thought your journey was going to be, and that it's okay.
100%.
Okay. And I love that you're able to share that as your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beau.
Oh.